is one of the mentors here at the Preccelerator program and a longtime friend of the firm. And Christine has a platform and a book, the Entrepreneur's Essential Roadmap, as well as an online course, 22-week course.
52.
A 52-week course of classes that can be taken that have every facet of small business management, helping you develop your mission statements, efficiencies, all sorts of tools that you can fit in your startup or your entrepreneurial toolbox. So tonight she'll be talking a little bit about the roadmap to success of her 7-tier plan to get there. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Christine.
Thanks, everybody. So, this is my guiding principle for my life, for my business, and it's something that appears in all my social media, my profiles, the back cover of my book. Have you ever put something out and then it makes sense at the time, and years later you go back and it makes even more sense? And that's what this is like. You know you've dialed into something that's the core of who you are, when you can look back years later and go, that still makes sense, and now it has deeper meaning. I've been a professional 100-ton licensed boat captain and a yacht racer, and I've had some life-threatening experiences out at sea, and I never could have imagined that the storm that was going to bring me to my knees was going to be on land. So I have a home, or I had a home in the Caribbean, in the British Virgin Islands, and we took a direct hit from Irma, Hurricane Irma, a couple months ago, and it was the second largest event ever recorded in the history of recording weather events, and the biggest hurricane to hit the Atlantic Basin. So it really called on me to utilize all my training, skills, experience, expertise, every facet of every part of my life, business and at sea, to prepare, plan, provision. And we as entrepreneurs are kind of doing the same thing, right? We're weathering our category 5s almost every day, especially in the beginning. So I had to do things like thinking ahead. What's going to happen if I'm offshore and I've got access to nothing, but I'm on land? So, you know, things like filling up my bathtub, making sure there's plenty of water and food and cash and gas. And this point of what was coming really hit home for me when we were all together, a group of us, watching the last weather report for the night at 11 o'clock, watching this monster come straight at us. And I'm sitting with friends, and one of whom runs the salvage company for the Caribbean. So he was cleaning up after everything, whether it's just boats running aground or other hurricanes. So he's seen it all in over 30 years in the islands. And he turned to me and said, "I'm scared." So it really drove that home for me. It's the most terrifying, traumatic experience I've ever had in my life. And there were ways that I was unprepared. And I'm going to confess what those were to you, because they're learning experiences, right? And I was conscious enough in the aftermath to remember these things and keep them with me, because that's what we have to do when we're traumatized and terrorized by a monster like that, which might just be the day-to-day running of your business, you know? So I always could have had more water. I chose to ride the thing out alone. I had no idea how idiotic that was. You know, I don't know a single person on the island who weathered Irma alone, but there I was. I had devices that I left on my boat that I didn't have with me. One of them was a VHF radio, which would have allowed me to be in touch with people down the road. Instead, because we were both blocked in, or sets of us were blocked in at my hill or there at Marina, I couldn't communicate with people down the road for days. And I didn't have my radio. It was on the boat, which is where it should be most of the time. And I had a satellite tracker. So I could text and email anywhere in the world without telecoms that I carry with me offshore. And of course, that was on my boat, not where I needed it to be. And then finally, the hurricane wreaked havoc on cars. And we blew out all the windows. My car survived for the most part, except for the windows, and it was flooded. And so the next day, I need to be busy, you know, in shock, and I lost the top of my house, and I'm cleaning out the water in the car, and I leave the doors open all day long. And the hurricane's already wreaking havoc on the electronics, so that killed my battery. So there's things you can learn from these experiences, and you know, as I'm listening to the sounds of my roof being torn off and everything upstairs being destroyed, and this monster is wielding its power and tearing up the whole island, really, and everything within sight, you know, I realized that there's going to be another storm tomorrow. and another one, and another one, and I can always do better. And the fact is, my house is in a hurricane trough, and hurricanes happen. And that's what we're doing here as entrepreneurs, right? We're pretty much in the hurricane trough. If we're going to go out and try to be entrepreneurs and stay on the cutting edge and start up a business instead of taking the safe route to a job. So you have to be able to weather the storm to have this kind of view. So that was mostly what it looks like. That was pre-hurricane, but the green is coming back, and the boats are piled up here and there, and the roofs are all gone, but it looks a lot like that still. And, you know, Simon Sinek started a movement in 2009. Start with why. And this is my why, right? Simon understood that Steve Jobs and the Wright brothers and Martin Luther King didn't have a lot in common, but they all understood one thing, which is that you can't enlist people to an idea or a movement or a product or service unless they understand your why. And I came across an article, and enough of you here are millennial age, I would say. The number one word that gets millennials in trouble every time, and that word is why. Because with all this information you have available at your fingertips, the one thing that you can't look up online is why. If you're dealing with your team, your own why, you're talking to investors or partners, that's not available information. So it's natural for you to ask that question because you can find anything else out. And you want to know why you're being asked to do something, right? And if you're talking across the table to your VCs and they've been doing this for 20 or 30 or 40 years and you can't figure out, they're talking to you and asking stupid questions, you need to know their why. You need to communicate your why to engage them onto your program, what you're trying to get from them. So it's really important for all of us to recognize and be in touch with our why. And so this is mine. You know, I had a dream since I was a little kid to sail around the world that was inspired by Ronald Graham, who sailed the Dove when he was 16, alone. I never wanted to be alone when I was sailing around the world, but I didn't want to be alone in a hurricane, it turns out, either. So these things happen. And I've been a navigator, a professional yachts person, and I've always been passionate about navigating obstacles, getting to our destinations, whether it's in business or at sea. And I really understand what it takes to get through these life-threatening situations, and it's really important to me that I commit myself to making it easier on others and being that kind of support for people. So that's kind of my story. I've started, grown, expanded, and run 10 businesses on my own and with partners and clients, and I have been an attorney, a business advisor, an entrepreneur, a C-suite executive, an adjunct professor, and of course the boat captain stuff. So it's, and I've seen it all. There's really nothing that you could present to me as a challenge in your business that I haven't experienced firsthand. And I also know how difficult it is to be in that senior role. There's very few people in our infrastructure, unless we have partners, that we can talk to and really know what we're going through or know what's needed of us and that we can unburden ourselves to. So that's my mission in life, is to be that person that can handle that and absorb that for my clients. And that's why I am who I am. So what's this journey like for us as small business owners? This is our question. Why are we here, right? Why are you here tonight? Why are we starting this business? Why was I in the Caribbean? A lot of my friends are asking me. You know, I have an answer, but believe me, I had to think about that, you know, because it doesn't make sense, right? Why would you go into the eye of the storm if you don't have to? But we need to be asking ourselves that, right? Why are we here? Because knowing our whys are what help us weather the storms of business ownership and entrepreneurship, which is not an easy path to take. Most of the time, it's just easier to get a job. So we start out with a vision, right? We've got to have something that drives us. We've got to know our mission and our purpose. And so we all generally have some kind of vision of how we want it to go. And the question is to you, is it big enough? Are you really challenging yourself? Have you come back and looked at your vision if you've gone down the road a ways and the market's giving you information? You know, are you keeping in touch with it? Does it still resonate for you? So these are important questions. It isn't just being able to write a mission statement, right? And so what do we have to do on a day-to-day basis? The demand for growth is relentless, right? Your investors want it, your partners want it, your families want more, everybody's on you to grow your business. And if you get complacent, you die. So we always have to keep growing. We have to keep getting information and figuring out where our business is going. And we need resources, right? We never have enough. I have worked with and partnered with some very creative, visionary entrepreneurs, and their appetites are huge. And then it's on me to figure out, how are we going to fund that? You know, where are the resources? How are we going to have enough human resource to get those, meet those goals? So we're always on a scramble for resources. It's never enough, and especially when you're starting out, and I say this to all of my new startup clients, is, are you asking for enough? If you're going to take the trouble to put a deck together and go to those meetings, is your initial ask going to be enough? Do you have a preparation plan for the next stages? Because resources are the one thing, especially once you're underway, that you're going to run out of, and it's going to be stretched, especially in the early years. So how do we get started? To create more resources, we have to know our ideal clients, right? Our target market. It's really challenging because we don't want to do anything that they don't want us to do. That they're not looking to us for what we do. They only care that we can deliver something that they believe they need. So we have to know who they are. And it's a really important exercise, and we'll talk about it more today, but that's where we are. So we got to know who our market is. And now, what's the number one problem for entrepreneurs is our time. I don't know, resources, time. It's probably a toss-up. But we're doing everything, all day, every day, 7 days a week, day and night. And Michael Gerber said it best when he talks about the 3 I's of the entrepreneur: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And so most of us, when we're small or in the beginning stages, we're doing everything, right? We're delivering the product and the service. We're in the present, servicing the clients. We're managing the business, so we're looking at historical results. And we're supposed to be the entrepreneur that got this started in the first place, right? And so what's the statistic for how much time most entrepreneurs spend being the entrepreneur once they're underway? Less than 5%. So how can you get where you need to go if you're only spending less than 5% of your time in a week growing your business, thinking strategically, looking ahead? So it's really important that you track your time and figure out how to spend it in a way that moves your business forward. So with a little more time, we recognize that it's not a straight line anymore, right? We got so much information. Anything's possible. We're nimble these days, especially in the tech world, right? We don't have big infrastructures and bricks and mortar, so we don't have to go in a straight line. And we got to be prepared for the information that we get from our market to be able to make a pivot. So I had a competition go-karting company in my past, and our racetrack was on an Indian reservation, and it became clear that the land was going to be taken over for a casino, and we got to see it enough ahead of time that we could shore up our business for that eventuality by starting our own safety gear line and building multiple retail outlets and taking a race team on the road. So we could put all these things in place so we wouldn't be killed when the track was shut down. This was where the primary business was located before that. So we have to be able to pivot when the market gives you information or when circumstances change for your original model. So we need a new direction, right? We got to go back and find a new vision for where we're headed now that we've had to make a pivot. So what we have to do with that is enroll our team, which requires us to know our why. Because I guarantee you, you're not going to have resources to go hire everything you need to make this change, and you're going to be asking people to give more than what they've been used to. And if they know your why, you will have a much easier time enrolling them with what you need them to do and to stay with you on this. So what are your choices for moving your business forward? You can download anything these days, right? It's all available at your fingertips. A lot of it's free. You guys got copies of my book, so that's one. I have my e-learning system, so it can be a do-it-yourself tool for people and resource, and that's why I created it. But I also deliver it as part of my advising services, the point is that it's critical that even if you think you can do it all on your own, which who of us can really effectively, we need support. And so you've got to think about who have you surrounded yourself with. You know, for those of you at the incubator, there you are fortunately surrounded by some very high-level people, but you need to be talking to and being supported by people who know where you're at, who've been where you are, who can help you navigate. Because sometimes it feels like you're out to sea with, you know, out of control. And you have to be able to keep your eye on the 360 perspective, right? Having somebody by your side at the helm who can keep their eye on changing weather conditions, on the current and climate, the team performance, how your boat's doing, as it were, information about competition, the rules, all of these things that you want to keep track of, and having a professional navigator makes that a whole lot easier. So here is my professional navigator hero, Galileo. My favorite place in Italy is the Galileo Museum, and I've always been so excited about exploration. And when you think about these guys, my house in the Caribbean looks out over Drake's Passage, and these are the guys who discovered the New World, right? When I'm sailing those waters, I feel like I'm in touch with the earliest explorers. And these guys had to invent their own tools. They didn't have a map or a chart, they didn't have a sextant, you know, they had to invent this stuff, and they had to choose to leave shore, not knowing whether they're going to fall off the edge of the earth or ever come back. And being in business feels like that sometimes, right? We don't know if we're going to survive this, right? It might feel like death. And it certainly, there's no guarantees about it, and we're going off into the unknown. And I've set sail in the dark with compass and navigating by the stars. There's an accomplishment to get where you were going in those circumstances, but being challenged that way is part of the day-to-day life of an entrepreneur. So that's why I created this tier system for my book, and to help entrepreneurs and small business owners be able to navigate the basics that we need to do to get to our destination safely and faster and more efficiently than if we're on our own. So what is the tier system? You guys are familiar with Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably most of you. So if you recall his cash flow quadrant, right? Most of us at this stage have been an employee, right? We're working for someone else. Feels just like that, right? Frankly, I was never a good employee, and people couldn't wait till I was gone. Actually, I carried more than I loved, but still, I wasn't very good at it. And then if we're lucky, we might break free and we become self-employed. And you're still here trading time for money. And this could be a multi-million-dollar business, because I've had that. I mean, my partner and I, in our last company, the market research company for the entertainment industry, it was completely dependent on him. Our business development, we were very successful. We went from 0 to $10 million a year company in 4 years, but we did that on his back. And we were very aware that if anything happened to him, we didn't have a business. So we had to be thinking about how to systematize to actually become business owners so our business is working for us. It was really hard to do in that model because he was so integral to the business. But you have to systematize in order to be in business so you're free. To ultimately get where you really want to go, which is having your money work for you, right? That's the dream. So the tier system is that roadmap that takes you from the left side of this quadrant to the right and turns you into a true business owner, and hopefully with enough success and a good foundation, a real investor. So that's the tier system. So now that we know we need to get started, what does it take to get to success? What is required? Peak performance requires you to understand why you do the things you do, where do your expectations, values, beliefs, attitudes come from. It comes from self-concept. Everybody has multiple self-concepts in their life. The self-concept you have about everything: how much you earn, how much you weigh, how happy you are, how much money you have in the bank. And it's like a thermostat. So your self-concept keeps you within 10% of that degree. And you want to be able to expand. So we just need to understand it, where it comes from, and how to turn up the dial. So the self-concept is made up of the self-image, which is how you see yourself, and the self-ideal, which is somebody that you admire most and want to be like. And the most important is the self-esteem, which is how you were loved and rewarded and criticized as a child, your fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of criticism. These are the critical pieces that make up your self-concept that keep you wherever it is you are. And when we're striving for more, we have to figure out how to make adjustments, right? So let's talk about what does it take to be successful. And I'm going to use Clayton Kershaw, my current favorite Dodger, God rest his soul, in the World Series. So Kershaw, let's talk about what does it take for him to be successful.
Talent.
Talent, okay. That's pitching, right? So he has to be a good pitcher. Anything else?
Drive.
Drive. Is this pen visible to you? Go on.
Discipline.
Discipline.
Tenacity.
Tenacity. Okay, anyone else?
Confidence.
Confidence? Okay, let's get one more.
Needs to be consistent.
Consistency, okay. Now think about your ideal assistant. What do we want from that person? And let's be as comprehensive as we can, because if you don't ask, you can't get it. So what do we want from our assistant? Number
Attention
one.
to detail.
Attention to detail. Okay,
Reliable.
reliable,
Resourceful.
will it?
Timely.
Timely and
Resourceful.
resourceful, yeah. Good.
Judicious and diplomatic.
Judicious, I'm sure you can all read my handwriting, right? My partner had an assistant, he had a few, but the one that I always stuck in my mind, he could walk in the door with his sunglasses on and stop at an office, and she'd come in with his indoor glasses and swap them out without him even realizing it's happening. You know, that kind of initiative that
I also want drive and discipline.
yeah. So we have drive and discipline. Okay, that's a pretty good list, right? I would hire that person and I'd back up a Brinks truck to keep them, right, wouldn't you? These people are gold. Like Heidi probably has these in spades and like 10 times exponential. So this, Andrew Carnegie, we know who he is, right? Industrialist, wealthiest guy of his day. He was richer than Warren Buffett and Bill Gates combined. And so he partnered with Napoleon Hill, and they studied successful people, thousands of successful people. And they determined that these successful people had 3 things in common that made them successful. What do you think they were?
Driven.
Okay?
Do I get to answer?
Not if you know.
A clear vision, positive mental attitude, and
Okay. You know you have to stay if you're going to come in here and
Peanut
contribute.
gallery.
resilience.
Okay?
Wow.
Well, they found that knowledge and skills were 2 of the most important attributes, right? And I skipped ahead of myself, but they only comprised 15% combined of what made people successful. So what do you think the other 85% was?
Clear vision.
What's that?
Clear vision.
Clear vision, okay? We talked about some of this. It was really encapsulated in attitude. Because all of these things we're talking about probably could go under that category, right? And let's test it out. Because this is our list here, right? How much of these things let's just do it the other way around. Which of these are actually knowledge or skills? Maybe this might be a skill, right? Reliable, is that a skill or is that an attitude?
Attitude.
Right? Timely? Okay. Resourceful? What was that word, anybody?
Judicious, it's judicious.
Thank you. That was a J at one time. Is that a skill or a knowledge or something?
It's a skill.
Okay, we'll put that there. Diplomatic, it might be a skill.
It's an attitude.
Okay, initiative, that's probably an attitude. Talent might be a knowledge, right? Pitching skills. Drive, discipline, tenacity, all of these things. What?
I was saying those are attitudes.
Yeah, right? So you can see that we prove it out ourselves just by our own wish list and the people that we know who are successful in their fields. So this makes sense, right? And so it's all about the self-concept for each of us and the people that we want to hire or train. Most organizations get this wrong because they hire or they train for knowledge and skill when 85% of the success depends on attitude. Attitude is something I can work with, right? I'll hire anybody all day long that doesn't have the training. If I got a great attitude, I'll make them into a star at my companies. And that's, in the entertainment industry, it's a little easier because a lot of the stars want that and they'll work for a lot less. So I've had good fortune in those areas. And some of the other fun businesses that we've had some really good people, but it all comes down to attitude. They might not have done what the jobs that they're doing for us in our businesses, but when they have the right attitude, they will rise. And so we have to get there. And how do we do that? Well, how do we change our self-concept to be able to maximize our success, to be intentional with our success and not have it be an accident? Does this need to be wet? I just have to a little harder.
Wax on, wax off.
I'm gonna stop writing this much then. Okay, so most people get this wrong, right? We look at the results that we get and they dictate our thoughts. You know what I'm talking about, right? You look at reports, you look at the market data, and then you feel shitty about it, right? So thoughts and feelings, right?
No, it's
So-
the wrong way around.
Yeah, we have to flip this and take systematic, powerful control over our thoughts. And our thoughts are what we tell ourselves when no one's around, right? We don't say them out loud. Then our feelings are how we feel about the things we say. And our actions, what we do from our thoughts and feelings, and that's how we get to success. So success is your reward for your thoughts and feelings. And we have power over our thoughts. Just being mindful of how we make these changes. Self-concept. We don't have to be stuck within 10% of the self-concept that was given to us by our environments, our parents, our teachers, our friends. They're also well-meaning. People don't necessarily wish you well. But they'll keep you where you are unless you take control. And we have that power to do. So that's the cornerstone of the 7-tier system, and it's obviously 85% of the way there. So what are some of the other things that we got to think about on our roadmap to get where we want to go? What's on our mind? Profitability, numbers, financial models, financial performance. We're always having to respond to our investors, our partners, our clients, got to evaluate where we are, and it's overwhelming at times to be constantly in the numbers and not seeing the results of that. But we just really have to leverage our way to wealth by making it a more manageable exercise. And we do that using the 80-20 rule. Right? Everybody knows Pareto's law, right? 20% of our effort yields 80% of our results. So our job as entrepreneurs and business leaders is to focus only on the 20% of the things that are going to get us 80% of the way there. Take all the pressure off, right? So I have what I call the 5-step profit formula, and I focus entirely on leads, conversions, transactions, pricing, and profitability. Just those 5 areas, an incremental change will yield exponential results. So here's an equation to show you just how it works. A 10% increase in each of these 5 areas will result in a 40% increase in revenue, in net profit, sorry. And where I like to play with my clients is in the 50%. Oops.
Sorry, you're saying that the entrepreneur should focus on these tasks.
These 5 areas of
more
growth
profit.
will yield exponential results. 40% increase
So
for
when I
just
work as a technician, I don't have that. That's probably
the
much
entrepreneur needs to though, right?
Yeah.
That's what you should be focusing on is how do we do lead gen? And that's what we're talking about here is where we started in that conversation about how do we start to get to those areas. We start with lead gen by knowing our target market, which we're going to get to. But that's the idea, is just to see what a dramatic change we can make in our businesses just by focusing on these 5 areas. So now that we understand that, where are we going to go first, right? Lead gen and our target market. So we need to do this exercise, right? In the movie business, in market research, we have an expression, if you make a movie for everyone, you've made a movie for no one, right? We think our products are brilliant and we're so close to them and we know the world needs it. But the truth is, there's this very finite, laser-focused market that is waiting for what you have. There might be other people who will benefit from it, but we want to get to those people who are going to become your ambassadors, who you're meant to serve, that are waiting for you. And so we have to be able to go to the pond where the fish are at. We have to know, what do they like to eat? How big of bites do they take? When do they like to eat? How do they like it presented? Why do we do that? It's so that we give them what they want. Because again, they don't care what you do. They care only if you give them what they think they need. And so we've got to find out. And we want to take a market researcher approach to this, right? I'm going to show you an exercise, and you can hand out the first handout. Thank you very much. How do we systematize this process for ourselves? So let's pick an avatar. Ideally, it could be yourself, because we're who we're meant to serve, right? And we know ourselves best, and we're the ones who've given birth to this idea, so it makes sense that we might use ourselves as the avatar. And we go to this quadrant and spend a week, maybe it's somebody you've identified, an ideal client that you're going to follow, and everything they do, you're going to find out what frustrates them. And these are going to be things that they talk about, right? So the frustrations are known. So in my case, I'm talking to people who are visionaries. They have to find out how to grow. They're looking for growth, short on resources, short on time, right? They need to make a pivot. These are things that I'm going to hear about from my avatar, right? And then we want to know what's really frightening them. And these are the secret voices in their heads that they won't be sharing with you until you ask. You got to find out what's really frightening them. They don't want to be found out as a fraud. They're afraid of failure. Maybe they don't want to be seen as a failure. It might be okay to fail, but just don't be seen as one. Those are the secrets that we want to get from our avatar in our week of market research. And then we want to talk about their wants. And again, wants are something that they will be able to talk about, because that's what they're thinking about, that's what they're going for. You know, I want to be able to work in the Caribbean and the mainland and anywhere in the world, actually. I want to work from a sailboat. I want to have flexible hours. I don't want to run a big team. Whatever it is, they're going to know what their wants are. And then we can get to their aspirations. And again, that's going to be something that's unspoken. I come from immigrant parents who, you know, bet the farm my success, right? I'm the great hope, so I have to make them proud. But I might not be leading with that when I'm talking about my aspirations. It's just always there. The same with your avatar. So I handed you out a form for you to take a look and think about what your avatar is wanting and what fills in these things for them. So I normally spend some time having you go through it, but I think we'll just table that for later because it'll come back around. But you get the idea. And we have to be able to give them what we want. We're here to build a personal relationship with our target market, right? We want to be of service to them. So I can make the best hot dogs in the world and go out here and maybe sell a few, but I take my hot dog stand to the nightclub at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to sell a ton of hot dogs, right? Because that's what they're looking for. And I won't do anything unless I know that that's what they're looking for. And that's how we should all be approaching our business. We give them what they want. That's how we build relationship. That's how we give our target markets what they're looking for, and we grow our businesses. Because they don't care what you do. They don't care about all the fancy bells and whistles of your, high-tech businesses. They care about solving their problems. So what do we do this for? We have to be able to convert, right? That was important to our 5-step profit formula. And we've gone this far to identify them. We know who they are. We've gotten granular with it. So now we have to figure out how to convert them. And we know in this day and age of noise, it takes 20 to 100 touch points to get people's attention if you're lucky. And I don't
Say
care.
that again?
20 to 100 touch points to get people's attention. And believe me, even with a $50 million, $150 million branding budget, there's so much noise out there. And it doesn't matter that we have all these new technologies, digital marketing, people will tell you, it's all, this is going to, eliminate that. But this isn't about technology, it's about human behavior, right? We're inundated with noise. And we haven't changed as humans in terms of what we respond to in hundreds of years. Or maybe a couple hundred. So we have about 2 seconds to get inside the head of our target, to reduce down from 20 to 100 to 5 to 8 touch points by speaking to the conversation in their head at that given moment. And it's always going to come down to 2 things. One, it's a problem that they have and don't want, and a result they want and don't have. So your headline is going to grab their attention in 2 seconds and let them know that you understand that equation and you're here to solve that problem. And your sub-headline, which is going to engage them, get them on the hook, so to speak, is going to be letting them know that you have the answer to their problem, that you can deliver that result. So that's our engage step. And then we educate, right? Because most people, unless you're an HVAC provider or maybe that you sell gum, an impulse purchase, they're going to be on a buyer's journey, right? So everybody, 99% are future buyers. These are now buyers, that's less than 1%, and future buyers, and then, soon to be, right? So our job is to educate them along the buyer's journey and recognize that first we have one, second, how do we deal with it? These are why should I, right? Benefits of ownership, we're going to educate them about that. And overcoming objections, why not? Why shouldn't they buy? Until finally they're ready. And then we make them an offer that they can't and won't refuse because you prime the pump. So that's how we learn to engage, we overcome the noise factor and rise above. Because we know our targets, we know how to speak to them and get into relationship with them and nurture them along the buyer's journey. Easy, right? If only. So, what's the point of all this? Why would we bother, right? We could just get a job. It's so much easier. go to the same place every day, always get a paycheck. But really, we want to take some time to understand the quality of life that we seek. We want to be able to craft goals and a vision that actually addresses what we want to get to in our life. So diamond mapping is a cornerstone, and we can hand out the next handout if you like. To be able to get to perfect 10s in these 4 key areas of the life. I guarantee you that most people, if they're at a 10 in certain areas, somebody's suffering over here, right? How many people do you know that are going great guns in their businesses and have maxed out their health and fitness, right? It's the first thing to go. Stop exercising, eat crummy food, you know, the family misses you, you're never spending time at home. It's impossible. We're trying to get to perfect 10s all the way around, and that's what the diamond map is for. So take a minute and be brutally honest with yourself and see where you are in these 4 categories. You don't have to share it, but let's see if that's an interesting diagram that comes out of this. Or not, Steve.
Thank you.
Excellent answer.
You're trying to find out where you're at right now or where you want to be?
Yeah, well, we want to be perfect 10s, right?
Yeah.
That's a
So you're
good.
saying, so you're trying to figure out right now where you're
Exactly.
at.
Yep. Who's suffering? You, your family, your bank account? Something's going to be off kilter, pretty much for everybody. Unless you're all maxed out and read my book and been there before. These 2 are all 4 10s.
Working on it.
Working there, getting there.
Right? Yeah, that's the mission, right? So the point of this is, while you're being really honest with yourself, is to be able to craft goals that get you to your perfect 10s, right? What's the point of a goal? They don't bring you happiness, right? But if they're aligned with what you seek for your life, with your values, with who you are, then they have the possibility of bringing you joy. So now we can do the work with a vision of creating goals. And we want to be mindful about that. Because any road will get you there if you don't know where you're going, right? And goals without a plan are just a wish. So what do we have to do? We got a vision, right? A clear mental image of the end result. That's our diamond map. The goals, the result that we're going to direct our energies towards, and the plan and the actions that are going to get us where we want to go. This is our mission towards goal setting, which we're going to now get into granularly. What does it take to set a goal that is going to be successful, meaning get you the outcome you want? It's a positive statement in the first person, in present tense. And how many of us have heard of SMART goals? Right? It's not brand new, but it works. That's the beauty of it. You know, these things that become so common knowledge because they're actually effective. So we want to be able to create SMART goals, right? Knowing now the techniques, knowing what we want to go for, knowing how to get there. So we start by being specific. Our SMART goals, first thing they need to be is specific. Not like I exercise more, you know. I arrange my schedule to exercise 3 times a week no matter what. That's very specific. It's in the first person, in the present tense, and a positive statement. They also need to be measurable. You have to be able to enjoy the sweet success of quantifiable progress, right? I weigh 10 pounds by X date. And then you can start measuring, right? I have so much money in the bank. And then you can track it. And that's how you keep moving. Because without a measurable, a measuring stick, how do you get started? What's the motivation, right? And they have to be aligned with your values. So if your goal is to promote health and well-being, but you're selling drugs to get to your $250,000 a year net, you know, it's likely going to break down, and you're not going to be able to sustain the joy of that net profit because you've had to sacrifice, and you probably won't be able to keep that earning power because it's going against your core values. So it's really important to have done the exercise of knowing what your core values are, because you may not care. You know, drugs is a good way to get there. or other, destroy the environment, you can get there, but what's important to you? And these days, what we're all thrilled about, the younger generation, is people wanting to make a difference. You're getting crystal clear about that and making sure that your goals are aligned with your values. It's really important. Then they have to be realistic, right? My goal is to be a billionaire by the end of 2018. If I'm not, 100 millionaire at least, the odds are against me and my mind doesn't know what to do with that, right? We gotta get ourselves working on a subconscious level. So when we're creating SMART goals, specific, measurable, aligned, realistic, then our subconscious can start working day and night on it. It's not something that's insurmountable. And then finally, it has to be time-bound. We have to have a deadline. Because again, we want to get our subconscious, we want the powers and forces of the universe to align with us to get our goals met. And this stuff works. In 2015, I started adding my goal was going to be, I'm going to finish my book by December 31st, 2017. I finished my book a year ahead of time, and it became a bestseller shortly thereafter, well beyond my expectations. I set a goal a few years ago that I was going to have a home in the Caribbean. Actually, I was just going to spend the winter season there. But 24 hours later, I found an apartment that you saw the view. That's the specificity and the ways in which you can be supported if your goals are clear enough. And so I will have that home again. It's just in hiatus right now. But anyway, this stuff works. And that's why it's so common knowledge, because it does work, and we just have to be disciplined about it and realistic. So now that we know where we're going, what do we do to scale our business? My book talks about systematizing. There's a lot of different ways we can systematize our business, and it's critical if we ever want to grow out of our business, right? To be able to scale, we got to build something that is scalable, that's systematized, that then becomes marketable, and now you have an exit strategy. And Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind, which is something that's always in my mind when I'm starting out a new business. What do we have to do to make this business scalable? And so, as painful as it was, I've always expected my teams to build manuals for all the departments. Because as business owners, we never want anybody to have in their heads all your systems. You want to be able to hand somebody a manual or a file or whatever, and have those manuals reflect the standards that you want people to adhere to, the high quality of service you expect to be delivered to your clients and customers, and that reflects the vision, your why, out into the world. So we have to systematize. And so I love my favorite system, the communication styles. It's my favorite because it can make such a dramatic impact. And we don't have time to talk about one, so I picked this one. Empedocles, back in 444 BC, came up with the notion of humans being comprised of 4 elements. He was the founder of the School of Medicine in Sicily, as it happens. And he said any number of combinations of these 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, make up a human type. And Hippocrates expanded on that about 50 years later. And fast forward to William Marston. Who knows who William Marston is these days? Wonder Woman? Came up with Wonder Woman. He's actually got a movie about him. It just came out. And it's either out right now or it's coming out. But he also founded the lie detector and Wonder Woman. And he's the father of modern day DISC. And he says that there are 4 behavioral types that we all have as part of us, and we all lead with maybe 1 or 2. So do you want to slide those down?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Let's pass out the bookmark that's on the top of that pile. So let's not start looking at them because I want to talk about it first, but that's a little guidepost to the 4 different behavioral types. And I can tell you that this works. And imagine if you use the same communication style with everyone you meet, and there are 4 types, you're leaving on the table 75% of your prospective business. Partners, investors, clients, customers, because you're not matching and mirroring. You're not communicating to them in a style that they can receive. So this is critical practice for us to be more successful and to get to more people. And so, you know, I've had hundreds of clients examples that somebody very senior in a well-known company had a couple of performers on his team, and one had alienated all of his junior members, and he was a performer, but he was alienating everybody, and the other one wasn't performing, but he was well-liked. And once we started introducing these concepts within the teams, everybody raised their bar. So they all got along better, they understood each other, and they're all high performers because of it. And that's how well it can work. So the first type is the D. This is how we solve problems. And people who lead with the D, remember we're all problem solvers at some point or another, but people who lead with the Ds are domineering and they're quick and to the point. They're driven by, impatience when they're stressed. They're walking really firmly and forward, and they don't want to be questioned incessantly. They don't want you to bog them down in details. They're very extroverted, but they're task-oriented. So they don't want you to come in and socialize. Just get to the point. Don't give me all the facts and details in your whole process. Just tell me how I'm making a good decision and because I'm a winner. Right? They go with their gut. They make quick decisions. You might drive everybody else crazy because they don't want to hear from you. Right? But you can spot them if you get comfortable and you start to be familiar with these Ds. And so those are our problem solver types. And then we have our influencers. And this is how we influence people to our point of view. And these are the socializers, right? They're extroverted, but they're people-oriented. So they do want to hear about your weekend, They want to chit-chat, and they're enthusiastic and positive and outgoing and warm and fuzzy and, just joyful to be around. And they want to know that they want to be a star, right? They want to know that they're going to be looking really good if they make this decision. They also don't want to get bogged down in the details, but they're just happy to have you all part of this great group, right? Of which I'm the leader, if you're an I. So they're very people-oriented. And our steady relators, how we respond to the environment that we're in, these are the people that are also people-oriented, but they're introverts. And they're going to be looking after, the analytics. They want to make sure they've mitigated the risk. They want to look at all angles of a thing. They don't want to be pressured or rushed to make a decision. These two are going to be making decisions all day long, and for maybe different reasons, but these guys want to know what's behind it. And they're going to be cautious, and they're going to protect you. Bill Gates is an S. And so then our Cs, our compliance officers, these are the people who deal with authority, right? And they are introverted and task-oriented. So they want to hear, all the facts, all the figures. They want to know that they're going to make the very best decision, and they do not want to be rushed. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to hear your social weekend stories. They're not really interested in you. They're interested in the task. They want to get to the bottom line. So these are our 4 types, and there's a really easy way, and you can hand out the next handout if you like. A really easy way to start to get adept at this. Left, right, top, bottom. So these people on the left, reserved, are outgoing on the right, are task-oriented on top, and are people-oriented people on the bottom. So if you just think of it like that, we got a reserved people-oriented person, you're talking to an S. And now we have our little bookmarks and our cheat sheets for how they like to be communicated with. And a task-oriented extrovert is going to be a D. And we just can be mindful and disciplined about how we communicate with them. So imagine you're in a room with your VCs and you're trying to persuade them to your point of view, and you're coming from one place, and they're going to be coming from another. So you, by knowing these skills, can adapt your communication style to address what they need. If you get an I in the room, you're not going to go give them all your spreadsheets as the first, If you get a D in the room, you're going to go right to the heart of this is why this is going to make you look good. This is a brilliant idea, And if you have a C across the table from you, you're going to be fully prepared to answer every question they have, and you're going to know it's a process that you're in, and it's not going to be a quick decision. So that's how we systematize our communication and behavioral styles in a way that serves the business and moves you forward. Take a picture? Oh, okay. Are you watching a TV show?
No, I'm just kidding somebody.
Just kidding. So we now know how to scale. We've got our goals. We know where we're going. What's the thing that gets sacrificed immediately? It's our time, right? We're overworked. It's an entrepreneur's life, day and night, 24/7. And the fact is, there's no such thing as saving time. You can only allocate it differently. There's only so much time. It's about the quantity of time you spend at home and the quality of time that you spend at work that matters, right? So we have to become mindful about how we use our time, because we can get control of our lives and start getting to our 10s by being more aware. And so the only way to get control of this is to discontinue the lower value activities. That's what highly productive people do. They do more of the important things and less of the unimportant things. And so this is, as I said, we can't just add more tasks. We have to eliminate. So here are 6 steps to eliminating what do we think they are?
Delegate.
Yeah. Do you have this memorized? I dare you. Anybody?
Eliminate.
Okay. DOECCCDD, just in case.
Organize?
Organize. That's a possibility. It's not what I was going for.
Delay.
Delay.
Oh, wow, nice. I do that all the time.
Defer. Right? It's okay, as long as you get the delegation, right? If it's important, you'll get to it, or somebody else will. What else?
Optimize, organize.
You said that. I'll fill it in for you. Outsource,
Oh,
right? Because remember, there's only so many hours in the day. You can't do more, you can't save time, you have to reallocate. And outsourcing is a way to reallocate your time, right? So it's no longer on your plate. Delegate, another way to do that, right? Here's my favorite. Downsize. Anybody got an idea? Same idea, consolidate, combine, exactly. Okay, so these are 6 things we can do immediately to save time. And how do we identify what those things are? So here is our 4 steps to changing our lives. Not urgent, not important things. They all get eliminated, right? What's in this category? Watching television, probably social media time, unless it's a marketing campaign. Anybody else? Other ideas? It's not exercise, right? Urgent, but not important. Right? One of these things can include answering emails or even the telephone if it's not in furtherance of your goal. So you want to get rid of everything on the bottom half of this quadrant and focus on the non-emergent but important, right? Family, intimate relationships, health and wellness, all these things are important and shouldn't be sacrificed because they do help us get to our perfect 10s. And then finally, the urgent and the important. When the house is burning down, you got to put the fire out, right? So this is get rid of the bottom half, focus entirely on the top half, and that's how you do it, right? Because there's no other choice. You can't just carve out more hours of the day or add tasks to get some of this stuff done. You have to eliminate. So that is the roadmap to small business success. And I'm going to hand out a one-page roadmap for you to start thinking about what can you do today. It's 2 pages, they're stapled together.
You said one page.
I did, but I meant front and back, but they're 2 pages. It's all part of the same roadmap plan. That things that you can do today, the client core cares, you can do that in the next 7 days. And plan out your next 90 days, your next 12 months, and your next 3 years. So that's your roadmap to take home. And I'm going to give you a feedback form, which is the next form as well. And I would love it if you want a PDF of this or anything else that I'm sending around, please just let me know that. I would love to hear what you think are the top 3 takeaways that you got out of this talk tonight. And feel free to evaluate my talk. You can give me an 11. And let me know if I can use your recommendation, if you have one. And also, I have a marketing webinar that is happening on Monday at 11 o'clock. And if you would like me to send you the link to that, let me know that too. It's free, and it will be a valuable course for you, if you like. So, in the meantime, while you're filling this out, what are some of the things you got out of this talk today? Anybody? Yes?
Communication plans.
Oh, good.
Actually, I'm a good communicator, but I guess it's even better to
Yeah,
kind of read people and figure out that there's different ways they like to
right?
perceive information, the
Yeah.
style you use.
Absolutely.
But would it reaffirm that what I learned recently, that attitude is really the most important?
Right?
And then, I have a life coach, and it's funny, last Monday, we did the whole thing about thoughts, feelings, actions, results.
Right.
And we went through this, and it's, that's, I think it's a good reminder. And then everything about prioritizing time. I mean, that's also a huge issue for me. Basically, I really love Tim Ferriss says, he has his to-do list, he just writes it down on a post-it. If it doesn't fit on a post-it, it's unimportant.
Right.
I love it.
4-hour work week, right?
Yeah, you won't get overwhelmed.
I am the laziest overachiever you'll ever meet. Less is more, for sure. Anybody else?
Buyer's journey.
Buyer's journey, great. It's so important, right? Because
Right.
we tend to want to leap to the buying decision thinking that if they haven't made it, there's something wrong, and we're not willing to do the work of educating them. And that's what it's all about, building relationship, right?
It's a really understanding and mastering the why of what you're doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Attitude is 85%.
Yeah.
We already said that.
Yes, we did. It's okay, it's worth underscoring, right? Because these are things we can control. Can't control the market, can't control how well your ideal client's going to respond to your new product or service. But we can control our attitudes and keep moving forward. Yeah?
Smart goals.
Cool, yeah. You know, I always think that it's been around so long and everybody knows what that is, and you know, it's so obvious, and yet if I don't think about it very often, I forget. And I know how powerful it is. So, you know, if we're really stretching for something, give it a try, right? It might actually work. It might exceed your expectations, and that's what I've seen, and I know lots of people who have, so it's really a great practice to be in. So thank you very much, everybody. You'll see if there's anything else on the feedback form, let me know. I will give you information, I can answer questions, and I appreciate being here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.